Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Chrono here, and today we're going to be talking about something very interesting when it comes to PlayStation. I mean, Fantasy Star Online too. Anyway, so I make YouTube videos here daily. So if you
What's going on YouTube? Kronos here, and welcome back to the PSO2 video. So in today's video, we're going to be going over just a couple of things. Basically, when this video goes live, it'll be the time that we're waiting for NGS to go live. So I figured it'd be a good time to go ahead and tackle a couple of questions I've gotten, not only about base PSO2 and how I feel that's going to be working towards, as well as NGS and a few of the hot questions I seem to see pop up not only on social media, but that have popped up tons of times over in my comments as well as over on my Twitch. So I figured this would be a good spot for that. But before we jump into that, guys, really quick, I make content here on YouTube daily. If you don't know me, my name is Kronos. I'd much appreciate a subscribe. It does help me out quite a bit. We did just reach 5K subscribers. I'm still kind of like trying to gather all that in my head. It's pretty dope to know that we've had that much growth on the channel, and I'm super excited. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this. So as far as questions go, again, these are just questions that I've seen pop up tons on social media, tons over on my comments, in the YouTube comments themselves, over on the Twitch channel, not only in my channel, but in other channels as well. I've seen them pop up in other people's videos, and people have like kind of tried to ask people to address them, and not everyone's addressed them in a way that I think is, I won't say not beneficial, but in a way that I think people are looking for them to be addressed. So I figured, you know what, let's just compile all those together, and I will do my best to answer them for you guys here for our video today. So the first question I got probably the most over the last few days is, why did you do so much prep with NGS coming out? What's the purpose? Is it necessary? So on and so forth. So first and foremost, we played two versions of the beta. I played both the JP beta, which SEGA so graciously gave us access to and helped us out with playing. Super awesome. Them giving a chance to for a lot of those content creators to experience the JP beta and kind of give a heads up to what will be coming. And I played, of course, then the closed beta test on the global side because it was open, to everyone. And there was one thing that I ran into in both situations, and that was resources. Resource management was very difficult because there were very few resources themselves. And if you're following the video that went live, as of right now, it probably has gone live just recently, but if you're following that video, you'll know that their plan for resources is for them to be a bit more limited, for you to upgrade over time. And one thing I didn't want to do, one thing I did in both betas, was I ended up spending resources upgrading weapons while leveling. While it did make the leveling experience a lot more fun, and I enjoyed being able to, fight enemies, deal damage, all that good stuff, it made me run into a situation where I had a deficit of resources at whatever the end game of the beta was, and I was still scrounging for resources even as the beta was ending. Now, granted, we did have a limited time in the beta itself. Over time, eventually you will have those resources, but one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to run into a case where I'm scrounging for resources. I want to be able to explore the world and have fun, fight enemies, do dungeon content, and if I get resources, I want it to happen naturally as I'm just exploring the world itself, right? Like, stopping to gather some resources is totally cool, but I don't want to have to consistently, think about, all right, it's this time of day, I should go out and gather resources, and that being super important to do every single day, especially while the leveling is going on. So for me, that meant go ahead and prep now. I spent resources from base PSO2 on leveling gear, or setting up gear that I know that I can use to level for every single class that's going to be available, because those resources weren't coming over from base PSO2. They were only stuck there, meaning I could still use those, those pieces of content or those gear, that individual pieces of gear for leveling. Basically, exactly what I figured was going to happen, since they have already confirmed from the CBT answers, or from the CBT survey article, that the mineral spawn rate is going to remain the same on launch. Now, granted, I may not agree with that, but I understand where they're coming from and what they're looking to have done. So the preparation ended up working out in my favor this time around. We'll have to see how things work out. Now, there's a chance that with access to more areas, there's going to be more prevalent minerals available, so it won't be that big of a deal, but we'll have to see how that goes. But that is why I prepped as much as I did, because honestly, I just had the resources, I had the time to kill. I thought, you know what, let's make things as fun for me, or as fun as they possibly can be for me. Will items be transferable between both games? So I kind of don't like this question as much as I've seen it. Transferable is not really the right word to use in this situation, because nothing is transferring. The items exist in both games. You're not really moving your character or copying your character over into NGS as much as it exists in both sides of the game itself. It's as simple as going to any of the block transporters and just transporting into NGS. As far as your gear goes, yes, it will go between both games itself. NGS gear won't work in PSO2 obviously, but PS2 gear will work in NGS. They have an entire article. I'll probably leave it in the link in the video description because I have in the past couple videos, but they have an entire article talking about what actually transfers between both games itself. But as far as gear goes, yes, you'll be able to use it in either one of the games. Aren't you afraid of crushing content and making it too easy? No, actually, to be perfectly honest, even when I had upgraded gear in NGS, content was still pretty difficult, even in the world areas. And as far as making content too easy, leveling content is never really hard in the first place. I'm a pro gamer anyway. We're gonna crush content regardless of the type of gear. I'm just joking, of course. But leveling content is never really made to be crazy easy in the first place. So I don't think having gear is gonna make that any less fun for me. If it ever hits a point where I'm just crazily crushing things like one-shotting enemies like after one swing, then yeah, sure, maybe I'll go ahead and swap my gear up. But I highly doubt that's going to be an issue itself overall. Next question I saw pop up quite a bit was, will you go back to base PSO2? And what do you think will happen to base PSO2? I'm actually going to combine these two together. As far as will I go back to base PSO2? Absolutely. There are still some challenges I want to complete, and I've set up my gear in a way that I can still take that same gear and go back to base PSO2, move a couple of things around, and I'll still be just as strong as when I left. Things like Endless I still haven't finished up, and I do want to go back and do that. And in lull points, while we're waiting on new content, new Genesis, it could be a good idea to pop back over to PSO2 and get those taken care of. I mean, we have had plenty of times beforehand in PSO2 where we went back to old games. I know people like Anibal, Mark have all been playing a bit of Phantasy Star Blue Burst. I know we played some Phantasy Star Universe, so the older games actually are pretty fun to go back to. So I foresee myself going back to PSO2 base to get some things taken care of and have a good time. As far as what I think will happen, I mean, they've already kind of explained what's going to happen with the game mostly. You'll still have seasonal events. You will still have urgent quests that pop up randomly, so those will still be done. As to how many people I think are going to do them, honestly, not a ton of people do them now, but if a lot of people are enjoying NGS, you might see a surge of people come back to base PSO2 if there's an event that, pulls them back, maybe a cosmetic thing, something along those lines that might be super cool. So players may want to jump back to base PSO2 and get that stuff taken care of. So we'll have to see how that goes. What class do you plan to play as a main on NGS launch? Saw that pop up a lot. Fighter. Double Saber looks amazing, and Twin Daggers are super fun. I played Fighter as the first class that I was playing when PSO2 launched originally. And well, not global of course, but when I played PS2 back on JP, I played Fighter originally because it had 2 of the 3 of my favorite weapons. Of course, Soaring Blades, aka Dual Blades, being my favorite weapon, unfortunately is not in the game at the moment. I'll probably switch over to Bouncer when that does come out, but it'll be Double Saber mostly for me. What ship am I going to be on? Of course, I'm probably going to be on ship 1. Actually, there's no probably about it. I will be on ship 1, but depending upon how quickly we get through content, how much there is for us to do, so on and so forth, we will have alts on ship 2, 3, and 4. They're already been set up and they're already good to go. Again, resources are a concern, considering the resource management was account-wide and not ship-specific, which I think that personally might be a mistake. However, I can, again, understand what their choices are behind that. How do I think endgame will be in NGS? So NGS's endgame at first is going to be probably a bit repetitive and a bit grindy. It'll be just like, doing probably the battle areas, farming for gear and things of that sort to get our battle power up. We don't know what kind of urgent quests we're going to have out the rip. We don't know exactly what sort of towers and cocoon content we'll have out of the rip. But that's usually the case for new MMOs. At the very start, things are a little bit straightforward, kind of a little bit grindy because, or at least for those who tend to go in pretty hardcore, I think if you take your time, you'll be fine. By the time you hit end game and by the time you're grinding for that sort of stuff, new content will probably be on the horizon, so it shouldn't be too terribly bad. But we've got things like story to experience, the entire world, classes to level, so on and so forth. And for some of us, we'll be playing on multiple ships. We'll have plenty to do for a while. But as far as end game goes, I think it's going to be farming probably the battle zone. Was it the Raggle Forest or something along those lines? I can't remember what it was called. But the forest itself will be farming that area, and I'm actually pretty excited to farm it, so looking forward to that. And the one question I've probably seen pop up the most, and people are really trying to figure out, is will there be a preload for New Genesis? So as of right now, there is no announcement of an actual preload for New Genesis. However, normally before the game actually pops up, the servers usually update. So if you're playing on Steam, usually Steam will have an update for the client. Sometimes if you pop open the Epic Game Store client, that usually tends to have an update as well. As far as the Microsoft Store client, I don't know because I don't ever really use it. It's just the client itself pops up and then updates. There are, of course, plenty of you guys who tend to use the tweaker. Now, I wouldn't recommend using a third-party software on the game's launch, at least for me personally, because you don't know how well it's going to work with that software, or how well it's going to work with that with the game itself, or how that software is going to work with the game itself. And it's up to one individual to be able to manage that. Granted, as an individual, as an awesome person, have nothing against the software itself. You're more than welcome to use it, but I would say your mileage may vary. Expecting it to be, 100% up and running right when things pop up is kind of a crazy expectation of any one individual. So I would say if it is working, Tweaker tends to have an update available early as well. So I would say go ahead and get that taken care of to the best of your ability. Usually you can get that sort of stuff uploaded because keep in mind, NGS is just a large update to base PSO2. That's one thing that people are having a real difficult time with is, will you download the game separately? What's going on there? It's just an update to base PSO2. So all you're doing is updating the game. It's all the same client. It's all the same stuff. Granted, it's fairly large, but it's all the same stuff. So it shouldn't be too big of a deal to take care of, at least to my knowledge as of right now. Granted, that could change at the time I'm recording this video, which is around almost midnight EST, Tuesday morning. Nothing yet, but if something changes, we'll go ahead and keep you guys posted. If you don't follow myself on Twitter, of course, I would say follow any other PSO2 content creators. We are pretty good about tweeting something out when it changes, and all of us tend to retweet it around so our entire audiences can see it and the entire community can see it available. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, you'll find the link in the video description below. But that's really about it. I feel like that covers most of what people are asking. If I miss anything, guys, feel free to toss in the comments. I will do my absolute best to try to answer it for you. Granted, we won't have all of the answers. Things like how strong do you think a certain weapon is going to be, or what will the meta weapon be, so on and so forth, is not really a reasonable question to ask, unfortunately, because we don't know. Some things we won't be able to know until the game actually comes out. So we'll do the best we absolutely can, but of course, temper your expectations. And as a final reminder, we will be streaming as the servers go live. So if you want to follow us over there, you'll find a link in the video description. Go ahead and head down to there. It's my Twitch channel. We'll be streaming probably about 2 to 3 hours before the servers go up, just hanging out. I'm sure we're probably expecting, maintenance to be extended more than likely, but hey, we'll have to keep each other company while we wait for the servers to come up. We want to be right there when it pops up. So anyway, guys, as always, like on the video is much appreciated. It absolves you of half your ad block guilt. The other half is absolved by subscribing. Both are completely free and they do help me out a ton. If you guys want to keep up with content like this, make sure to click on the bell icon to be notified of videos when they go up, as well as community posts, or join us over on Discord or follow me over on Twitter for notifications via those 2 avenues. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. Don't forget to comment Endgang if you're a part of it, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace out.